All right, so moving into 5 now. Bus, you had KD here. Fobs, you had James Harden, and I had Anthony Davis at 5. So, Bus, we'll start with you. Talk a little bit about KD, how you think he's going to come back from injury here.
Yep. I think Durant's going to come back from injury fine. It's going to take a while, though, personally, I think. Achilles is tough, but he's going to have so much time off now, so much extra time for it to heal, you would think. And you would think that physically it's going to hold up. It's just getting back into basketball shape, reps, learning how to run on it again properly and all the things like that. But Durant is a top 5 player for sure. I just think the 4 guys ahead of him are a little bit better overall. LeBron, Kawhi, Giannis for sure. And Luka can do everything Durant can do. But I like Luka in the mind a little more as a leader on a basketball team. And that's unbelievable at his age for me to think that, but I do.
All right, and Fobs, talk a little bit about James Harden if you want to.
I mean, I'll try to keep it pretty short. I mean, what really did it for me was you look at the numbers and even like the plus minus, like the PERs, like even that stuff, like he's high up there. It's weird. It's just
It
like,
checks out. It checks out.
And I think the big thing for the PER and that type of stuff is just he gets to the line and like gets to the line a lot, and it stops the game for you. It gets you 3 points, especially if you're a good free throw shooter, which I give him credit. He is. It's a lot of easy points for you, and so I mean. But just the defense, like that's why it's just for me it's tough. It's just like how many times do they see you, ole, like you're out there like with your red cape, throwing up. The ball comes by, it's just like you're not playing D, man. And it's like it happens in the playoffs.
Yep.
Elimination.
That's why they don't win championships.
That's life or death. You're supposed to be surviving out there, and you're playing ole defense in the playoffs, and that's just like so for me that's why it's tough, and that's why I couldn't even though his skill, his offensive game has him as like the best player in the league, but just all the other stuff brings him down. If he had like 75% of what like some of these guys have on the defense, and like in my personal opinion, like the effort and some of that stuff, the character, I'm like wanting to fight for it and stuff like that, I think he'd easily be in the conversation for best player in the league and get an MVP. I mean, that I still don't get that whole when they did the player vote MVP, why the players vote MVP for him, honestly.
Yeah, it's surprising. It just shows you though that the league doesn't mind it as much as some of the viewers like us. But I'm gonna go out bold statement here. James Harden will never win a championship. Just based on the way he plays. I'm gonna say that. Straight up.
He won't even play.
Come at me. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't think he'll win a title.
I bet a lot of money. I'd bet a lot of money on it that he won't win another one.
That he wouldn't? Yeah. I would too. If anyone wants to drop a Venmo, make a bet here. Oh, wow. I am open for a large sum of money on that bet. Anyways, moving in to the top 4. Boss, you just mentioned a little bit about Luka. That's who you got. And Fobs, you have KD here as well as me. So we're going to start with Boss to just keep things neat and orderly. Give us your thoughts a little deeper on Luka.
Yeah. So 28, 9, and 8. In a second season, unbelievable. And I just feel like when I watch him, it's like surreal what I see, because he's doing things like certain moves and stuff, certain shots that he pulls off that no one in the NBA is doing, that no one can do. And it's not because he's more athletic or anything. It's like I feel like this is what it must have been like when like Larry Bird came into the league. And I don't know, he's going to get better because every young guy who's a star gets better. But his mind too, I wanted to get on that. Like it's Luka and Kristaps Porzingis on that team, but Luka is the leader of that team. Luka is definitely the best player on that team. And he's young, like so young. It's unbelievable. I think he will become the best player in the NBA someday. And I think as much as I love JT, Jason Tatum, he's my boy, but Luka might stop Tatum from ever being the number 1 player in the league. Tatum. I've thought for a couple years Tatum can get there someday. But I don't know. He's just something. He's a freak of nature, man.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Giannis is I think Giannis is 5 years older than him. So, and LeBron will be gone by the time, those players are in their 30s, or maybe not. Maybe LeBron's just, I don't know. That's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, I mean, even competing with Giannis, I think Luka still has a chance to be the better of the two between those guys. I mean, that could be a lofty thing to say right now, but it would be exciting, I think. I think they'll be going at it for years to come.
Crazy.
So, Fobs, talk a little bit about KD here, number 4.
Tarantula. I love KD's was great at the peak of KD and those OKC or even like that the Warriors times. I mean, he can just do so much. It's just really his length is what's so great about him and his shooting touch. And so, I mean, when you have that much talent, but the Achilles, that's the thing. The Achilles that's a lot to handle. But I mean, I think he's still I think what happened to Kobe you could kind of tell, but Kobe's a lot older, so I think KD still has that chance. I think really for me where I kind of pushed Curry down and kept Durant kind of there towards the top is I think the big thing is the landscape of the NBA has changed so much where that Curry now in his own division, he's got to go and play LeBron 4 times a year. He's got to play Kawhi 4 times a year. The West has just gotten better, even though it's crazy to think about that. It even got harder for him when he was at the peak of his game before his injury. And so for KD, he went over to the East now without LeBron. So it's and without Kawhi when he was playing for Toronto. And so really, I mean, you'd say the biggest guy to go against KD would be right now Jason Tatum, who didn't make my top 10 list, but is number 11 for me. So it's right there, but that's a farther cry for what you're competing against, and that's gonna help for numbers and how your team is ranked and stuff like that in the standings. So that's why for me, KD is just his landscape and his position, and just his whole team is just I think better suited for next year when he does come back and play.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Bus mentioned earlier, I am not penalizing KD for being injured. However, with that same token, even if he were healthy this year and put up another amazing season and led the Nets to a great record, I still don't have him higher than the 3 in front of him. I think he is the 4th player, even if he had another amazing KD year. That being said, I don't know. KD, he's always jumped around the last few years, and it's, I'm not a fan of it personally. Not a fan of. I wish he would have stayed with OKC. That's a great fan base, and he had Russell with them. They had a chance. I don't know. Wasn't a fan of him going to Golden State.
They didn't have a chance with Russell Westbrook. He's also just like James Harden, and that's why those two are together now. They're both those guys. The way they play, they'll never win a championship.
Yeah, I wasn't mad. I wasn't mad that Durant left, but I was mad that he chose to go to the Warriors as his team.
That made it a lot worse. And yeah, he could have gone. I mean, I'm a big proponent for small market teams and drafting a guy who's going to be loyal to that franchise and just putting everything into that franchise. That's really admirable. I really appreciate that when players do that and show some loyalty and some competitiveness and some okay, that other guy on the other team, he's a bad guy. I'm not going to be buddy with him. And KD kind of gives me that, he doesn't really care about that sort of thing. So, but still top 5 player, no question. And you can make the case that he's, top 2.
Yeah, I think too. You can blame a little bit on the consumer. All the NBA guys know, when you talk about best ever, go Hall of Famers, you want the accolades, and that's what the fans ask for. Especially KD with his burner account stuff, he watches social media, he watches what the fans say. So
yeah, he's watching this.
Oh yeah.
He wanted the championship though. He wanted the ring. He wanted to be, I guess cemented or solidified his proof, I guess, that hey, I had a championship. Even though the way it's done, in 40 or 50 years, when people are looking back at NBA, are people really gonna know that? Probably not.
I think they will.
You think they will?
I think they will. The NBA is so it's like a cult now. People will know. It won't be
no one goes after Wilt
the
for
fair
forcing
weather.
away all his places that he did back in the day.
But
yeah,
the father will tell the
now,
son, no, KD, he went to the fucking Warriors to get his title.
NBA fans back then, it's not like the obsession is today. I mean, there were a small group who were obsessed back in the day, but now on a broader scale, just there's more with social media and like back and forth and just media in general. I don't think people will forget about how KD won his championship.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, he's got one though. So yeah, we're gonna move into our final 3 picks. And Bus, you had Giannis here, and Fobs and I both had Kawhi Leonard. So Bus, talk about Giannis a little bit, how he fell to 3.
Yeah. So Giannis, so explosive. In the open court, he's unguardable when he got his head down going to the rim. I think he's one of the most unstoppable forces in the NBA, if not the most unstoppable. But in the playoffs, he got outplayed by Kawhi last year head-to-head. Kawhi was better than him, clearly. And, and then a couple years ago when they lost to Boston, it was because, like, they put up a wall. And Giannis, part of that's he doesn't have great, like, players around him. He's got Middleton and, like, other guys and stuff. But, I mean, part of that's not his fault. But I just – also, if he developed a jump shot, he'd be the best player in the league, I think. He'd be unstoppable, literally. But those two things, I want his jumper to improve, and I would like to see him beat Kawhi or LeBron in the championship, or at least, like, if the Bucks go to 7, make it to the finals, go to Game 7 with one of those teams. Ooh, yeah, he can move up my list, definitely.
Yeah, that's fair. Most definitely. And now, Fobs, you had Kawhi as well as I did. Talk a little bit about Kawhi.
I mean, look at what Kawhi did, and I know injuries and stuff, but look at what Kawhi did last year in Toronto, just coming in for 1 year and willing them to a championship. That did put the league on notice. Some people that Kawhi's still here, and that was again, he was up for injury too, and just came right back in and didn't lose a step. I think really what's big on Kawhi is, bigger than the Greek Freak and LBJ. What he's better at is his defense. He's the best two-way guy in the league. He can take over games when he needs to, and so that's why. And this is where, like, this list I think was hard for me because, especially when it comes down to these 3, it's like these guys could all have their own reasons for why they are the best in the league. It's not an easy choice. I would be gladly happy to have any of these 3 on my team. So, but it's just, he just doesn't do it for me as much as LeBron and just Greek Freak do it. Those guys, if they need to take over a game, they can take it over, and they will have to sometimes. Where with Kawhi, sometimes to me, I think he just doesn't have it in him. I know he had some of those shots last year, but when I watch him sometimes, especially now, it's just, he got to LA. He's already had some of the championships. When you get that stuff, sometimes that passion and that drive to get another one fades away a little bit. So now he's back home, maybe more distractions. He doesn't seem like that guy, but anything's possible.
Yeah, I'm gonna differ here. Kawhi is one of my favorite players in the NBA. He's a machine. He plays to win, and when he's on the court, he has no ego. There's no flair. He's just playing as hard as he can every possession. And the Toronto Raptors championship last season was my favorite championship since the Celtics championship 12 years ago. As far as just a team that, this guy just carried them on there. There wasn't a super team. They just came out and they just dominated some teams that probably should have beat them. And it was all on Kawhi's shoulders. the team was so together as a unit. It was just extremely exciting, and he's a multi-time championship player. So I don't worry about him with the Clippers when it's playoff time and when it's winning time. He has the most experience, some of the most experience, along with LeBron in the playoffs. So yeah, I maybe could have had him ahead of Giannis, but the season Giannis is having right now, I just couldn't put him lower than 2. So then we'll move into our top 2. Bus, this is where you had Kawhi, and
Yep.
Fobs, you had LeBron James here.
Yeah, for Kawhi, I think he's a killer. I think he's the number 1 assassin in the NBA, and I also think he's the clutchest player in the NBA. And as a two-way player, when you think of true two-way, I think he's the number 1 two-way player in the NBA. And in the playoffs, he just gets it done, man. Him and Kyle Lowry win a championship with a Marc Gasol a little bit out of his prime.
Pascal's really came on. That's
Pascal Siakam on the come up for sure. Was really good last year, even better this year though, and probably still getting better.
Yeah,
but I mean, incredible. So yeah, Kawhi, he's top 3 player. I have him number 2. If he wins the title this year, I don't know what to say. He's a winner. He's a winner.
He's number 1.
Kawhi wins.
That's what
Kawhi,
more championships.
I don't think so.
They have a chance.
I don't think
they're in the 4 or 5 teams 4 teams that can.
I think they have a better chance of losing the second round than winning a championship.
Man, Kawhi doesn't mess around, man.
There's 4
All
teams
Kawhi
that
does
have a
is
shot.
win.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want the playoffs to start.
Me too.
Right now. Screw it. Screw this rest of this regular season. Let's just get the playoffs going.
I know. I don't want the Nets to somehow lose out. And, and the Wolves don't have
pick. That would suck. That would not be great. All right. Yeah. So I had Giannis here at the 2 spot. And I just love small markets, and I really hope Giannis stays with them past the season, regardless of what happens. We've really hit the nose on him just talking about him as a player. But who would have thought that this kid from Greece would be right here at the 2 spot? So many teams passed up on him in the draft, and it's great to see Milwaukee's got some buzz. Smaller city, smaller market team. So we'll move into our number 1 players now. All right, Boss, you have the king on top throne.
He's still the king.
In the throne. He's got the crown on.
Just hold off on he's the king.
And Giannis.
Just accept it for another year, another 2 years maybe. LeBron, yeah.
And in Fob's realm, Giannis is slaying the king already, taking the crown.
Yep. Okay, so for LeBron, I think he's the best passer in the game. He's basically a point guard. He's basically everything in the game. But I think he has top 5 talent still, and he's the smartest player in the league by far. Like, Luka's a guy who's smart as well, like as I mentioned, but no. LeBron, his intellectual understanding of the game at this point in his career literally wins games. And as a leader of men, all the experience that he has in the playoffs, all like just putting the full package together. Who do you want leading your basketball team in the finals? Like, I want LeBron. I still want LeBron.
All right, Fobs, what do you got to refute that, to make any comments against that statement? I mean, we're talking the number 1 player in the NBA. What do you got for Giannis?
I mean, I like LeBron, and I think he's the second best player in the history of the NBA. He's not the LeBron he's not the LeBron he used to be. And it is the truth. He's still great. He's still passing. He's still doing a lot, but he's not the same LeBron that we saw in the Cavs, not the same LeBron we saw for the Heat. He has taken a little step back. It's the truth. And, I mean, he didn't make the playoffs the year before. And I just don't think that he has what Giannis has. And I know Giannis in the playoffs last year, he had a couple bad games. But everyone knows what Giannis is going to do every single game. Do they stop him? Only a couple times in the whole entire season. And a couple of them were important games. But also Giannis had some really good games in the playoffs too in those same series. So, and I think, obviously LeBron's a better team around him than Giannis does. And I really think this could be the postseason where Giannis wins it, and Giannis wins it for a few more years, and just goes on a crazy streak here, and especially if he can even get his shooting up. And I'm not even asking for a lot. I mean, if he can get his 3-point shooting up to like 37, 38%, that changes everything too for him. Just that it has to keep people even coming out to him way more than they are now. It would be a cheat code. Like, it's gonna be hard. You wouldn't be able to stop him.
So are you on the record saying the Milwaukee Bucks are going to win the championship?
If I had to pick a team to win a championship right now and put like my money on, it'd be the Bucks. But I mean, it's everyone knows this is the most wide open playoffs that it's been in a long time.
True.
So I'm not gonna sit there and say the King and AD don't have a chance. I mean, the King and AD have a chance, and I mean they have a better supporting cast than Giannis, but I really think Giannis is the best player in the league, so I think he will prove it. And so, yeah, they'll figure out a way to win it this year, especially just because I think, too, you see it all the time. And, I mean, last year you saw it, and that was really more injuries, but the West is a bloodbath, especially in the playoffs. It's just they are a hard series, and they go long. And in the East, we all know it's going to be a 4-game series, maybe 5-game series for the first round, maybe even the second round for Giannis. And then it's going to be when he gets to play Boston, or if maybe somehow, the Heat or Philly or whoever maybe give him a scare, but it's probably going to be Boston be the biggest scare that'll give it to him. And they might push him to 6 or 7 games, maybe even could find a way to beat him. But I just think that he just has the better outlook to get it done. And I just think his ball handling and his length, he can't be stopped.
So would you guys be willing to agree that at the end of this season, whoever raises that Finals MVP trophy of these 3 players, if it's one of them, would you give them the crown?
Oh, I would have no problem saying LeBron or Kawhi or, man, if James Harden goes off and they win a championship.
No.
I know you hate it, but if James Harden would win a championship, what you would say too, he doesn't deserve that.
I would stop watching NBA.
That won't happen.
I don't think it will happen either. I really think, honestly, if you look at too, whoever wins the championship and has the Finals MVP is kind of considered the best player in the league. I mean, Kawhi, you could say was the best player in the league last year. The year before that, it's like LeBron's won a few, Steph Curry won a few, and when they won them, they were the best players in the league. So
yeah,
it's one of those trophies that kind of says you're the best player in the league.
Yeah, for those 3 guys, for those 3, I have them close enough where if one of them wins the title this year, they're the guy now.
What if Luka wins the title?
If Luka Doncic brings Dallas Mavericks and wins the title this year,
yeah, exactly. What if he finds a way?
There's absolutely 0% chance of that happening. But hey, if he somehow did that,
if he does it and I watch it and it's like he gives it his all and earned it, I mean, it would have to be an extremely remarkable playoff.
I mean that would be some like Michael Jordan level.
And I would love it. I'd love to see that. I would like it. I would enjoy it.
Well, and this whole situation is interesting because I mean, we've been on break for how many since March, right? Since that Rudy Gobert night. So I mean, you can really tell what players were sticking on their ass and keeping in shape, or what players need the time to, some guys need the time, the rhythm of keep playing for a while, especially game time. Like these guys are sitting at home, not even allowed to go to the facilities until a couple of weeks ago. So I mean, it's like some guys, like when you go on off season, they need some time to get back into it. So it's really interesting too to see who can just jump right on that ground running like nothing happened, like they didn't even miss a beat.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's where champions are made.
Well, do you guys have any final remarks before we wrap things up here? Anything else?
Jason Tatum's top 10 player.
Jason Tatum, top 10, he made it. That wraps up our top 10 NBA players presented by Behind the Bench. Let us know what you think of our picks and what your predictions for the rest of the season are. Be sure to subscribe and share, and as always, peace.